Hey, good morning, everybody. What is happening? This is Saturday morning, Multifamily Unplugged, and I am so excited that you're here. And I know you're going to be excited about my guest today. Hey, what are you working on? What are you being intentional about? One thing I always ask people is, we have these goals that we set, but are you intentional about chunking them out along the way? Are you intentional about accomplishing what you've set out to accomplish? I think the more we're intentional about each step of the way or each task that we're performing, the more success you're going to have along the way. I remember reading a book one time by Pat Riley, who used to be the coach of the Lakers and Miami Heat. And the book is called The War Within, I'm sorry, The War on the Court. And what he talks about is the war that happens in the battle of the real estate battle. So picture that in your own life. And he says the team that wins the most battles back and forth on the court is the team that wins that overall war. And so think about that in your own life. You have these goals that you set up and your intentions around following through or executing on certain tasks or fundamentals that are going to get you to that end result. Are you winning those daily battles along with your intentions? So just give that some thought and see how that plays out in your life here over the next week. Hey, I'm glad that you're here. If you're new to the show, I appreciate you. Thank the person that invited you, but we always appreciate the support. So like us, love us on social media. If you are watching us on Facebook this morning, join our community, Multifamily Unplugged, our community there where we're always bringing out relative content every day, uh, trying to help you get those nuggets that are going to help your business. And then if you're watching us on YouTube this morning, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, you're going to get relative content, more informational stuff that's going to help you on your journey every day. Okay, my guest this morning, this will be interesting, is calling from Peru, Brian Davis with Spark Rentals. Let me bring Brian in. Hey, Brian, good morning.
Mike, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. Boy, it's been a while. I was saying before the show that my assistant was telling me that we've been trying to get this together since December. So obviously our schedules have collided more than, been opportunistic for us to get together. So I'm glad that we finally get this chance, though.
Oh, me too. I'm super pumped to be here.
Yeah. So I can't wait to hear about your travels and where you're at in the world and what's going on. But hey, I always start with one question. And I ask all my guests, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Oh, I would have to say independent. I mean, I've always had an independent streak, a little bit of a maverick streak. I love the idea of independence in every sense, financial independence, right? Anyone who's been fired from a job knows that horrible feeling, right? Of feeling so dependent on a job to be able to pay your bills and even to set your routine and give your life structure and purpose in some cases. I don't want any of that. Like I want to have my own forms of income, my own business, my own schedule that I can set. I want to be able to work from anywhere in the world, which I now do, but that didn't happen quickly, right? It took a little bit of time and a lot of effort to be able to set that up. So it's a long answer to a short question, but independent.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been, 3 years of podcasting, and I asked that question of all my guests, and nobody's ever said independent, and I know that
Really?
for a fact. So,
I would think that
it's
would be a
always
pretty
like,
common answer,
yeah,
especially among real estate investors who have such an independent streak.
right. It's kind of funny, right? So, I mean, people say focused or energized or enthusiastic or, but there's been a couple of words that I just don't get, and that's interesting that you said that. So, I get that independent thing. I think that's what makes people entrepreneurial.
No question. It's funny when I first launched Spark Rental. I don't know. I guess 8 years ago. One thing that someone told me was starting a business, entrepreneurship should be your last your last resort for earning money, because it's so much harder to earn money when you with starting your own business than it is to just go get a job and work for someone else. And at the time, I didn't really take that advice as seriously as I probably should have. And then, there was a point in the early days when you're really in the throes of like working 80 hours a week and have very little income to show for it. We're like, oh man, maybe there was something to that that someone gave me. It really is harder to earn. If it's just about income, it is harder to earn income as an entrepreneur than it is to just go get a job. But it is rewarding in so many other ways if you're willing to keep investing in it and stick it out.
So true. So true. Well, listen, why don't you talk about your background a little bit? Who you are, where how you got in the business, what you're doing, and tell us what Spark Rental is.
Yeah, so I got into real estate just totally by accident, like so many people. I graduated college in 2003, had no idea what I wanted to do in my life, just fell into a job by accident working for a mortgage lending company. And it was a subprime mortgage lender, which, today is vilified, but at the time, was considered heroic, right? Providing mortgages to people who, otherwise wouldn't be able to get them, and blah blah blah. So it was a different vibe back then. I did an internship for the company, and at the end of the summer, the owner, who was friends with my stepdad, which is how I fell into the job in the first place, he said, "Look, I don't need another loan officer. I've got plenty of loan officers selling subprime mortgage loans. But my partner and I, who own this business, we do hard money lending on the side of this more conventional mortgage lending business. Do you want to work with us on hard money loans? Because that's where we really need help." And I shrugged and said, "Sure, why not?" So I fell into real estate from the hard money lending side of the business. And, in that era, in the mid-aughts, everybody's making money hand over fist in real estate, right? I mean, it's just it's a giant party in real estate. So, and I'm working with flippers and guys doing the Burr method, and they're all making all this money. And I'm like, I need to do this too, right? So, I went out and plowed a whole bunch of money into buying properties, and I didn't learn what I was doing. And I made every conceivable mistake in the book. And then 2008 hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was a double whammy, because not only did my investments totally implode, but I lost my day job basically too, because no one's flipping houses anymore, right? No one's doing Burr deals. So with no one's doing hard money loans, I was getting paid entirely on commission with these. So I had to go do something totally different. Ended up working for an e-commerce company that serviced mom and pop landlords and mom and pop real estate investors. And the owner of that company was very clear when he hired me. He said, "Look, the reason I hired you is because you yourself are a landlord and a real estate investor. You have firsthand experience with this." So, I had been kind of crying into my milk a little bit about, woe is me. My life has imploded as a real estate investor in 2008. But the fact is, that's how these things go, right? A door closes and a window opens. So I learned an entirely different side of the business, online marketing and selling products and services online. And in 2016, after my wife and I had moved abroad, which is a whole other story, which we'll probably get into all that stuff at some point. But in 2016, after we had moved across the world to Abu Dhabi, a former colleague and I ended up launching Spark Rental, which itself has been a very winding road. We initially thought we were going to be selling a mom and pop landlord software service, like a one-stop shop software platform online for landlords to manage their properties. And we do actually offer that today, but it has become a much smaller portion of our business. Over the years, our business has really evolved into a passive real estate investment club, where we get together every month, we vet different deals, and anyone who wants to go in on that deal together can do so with relatively small amounts, $5,000 per member, as opposed to the typical 50 grand, 100 grand that you would need for a real estate syndication. So it's kind of like an old school stock investment club where everyone gets together and puffs cigars and sift, and brandy snifters and whatnot. But instead of looking at stocks and going in on stock investments together, we're going in on passive real estate syndications and notes and funds and that sort of thing with small amounts and leveraging the knowledge and wisdom of the crowd.
So Spark Rental actually then is a fund that
No.
oh, you're not? Okay.
No. So that's actually that's the first question we usually get is like, oh, so you're a fund of funds. We are actually not a fund. We are not selling securities. We're not syndicating. We're not creating a fund or anything like that. It's just a flat fee investment club model. So members pay a monthly or an annual fee to be a member in our investment club. We don't
Got it.
get any of the money that's invested. Otherwise, we would be selling securities, right? So yeah, that's our form of revenue. We organize the club and we get paid just a flat fee for that, and then we create new LLCs each month for these joint venture passive investments that we're making as a club. And anyone who chooses to participate in that month's investment, they just get listed as an owner in that LLC for that specific deal.
So would you say that you guys are capital raiser for other sponsors?
No. I mean, capital raisers, again, they are, they're typically co-sponsoring deals and they get a cut of the money that they're investing. They are selling securities. We are not selling securities. We don't earn any money based on how much money we're investing. In fact, quite the opposite. Like, I'm personally investing my own money in each one of these deals, just as yet another member of the club, basically. So, I mean, I'm in the trenches participating in these alongside our members, just as one more LP, like limited partner, basically.
Got it.
So yeah,
And
no, it's not. We're not capital raisers. We're not a fund of funds. We're not syndicators. We're not selling securities. We don't get a cut of any of that. It's just a flat fee investment club model that we are just organizing the club, basically.
I remember reading a book years ago. I want to think it was The Millionaire Next Door, where they talked about, an investment club where everybody put $1,000 a month in, and they wound up investing in traditional investment stocks and bonds and things like that. But so you're doing similar type, but investing in alternative investments, being real estate.
Yeah, and I actually like that analogy for a couple reasons. One is this represents a similar form of dollar cost averaging, where you can invest relatively small amounts every single month to just keep participating in the market month in, month out, and over time you're going to see your returns compound like the market, or ideally better than the market. Similar to just investing $1,000 a month into index funds, ETFs, whatever, or stock picks if you're picking stocks like that model. So I like that model of dollar cost averaging, where you're putting relatively small amounts, but you're putting them in consistently, and that's a challenge in real estate investing. Is that these assets are so expensive that it's hard to invest consistently, right? I mean, if you have to invest 50 grand or 100 grand in every syndication or in every property that you're buying, for the down payment, closing costs, et cetera. If you're buying properties directly, it's really hard to diversify, right? And it's really hard to invest consistently because it's so expensive for each asset that you're investing in. But if you can invest 5 grand a month, you can keep doing that, depending on your income, of course. You can potentially keep doing that month in and month out and really build a diversified portfolio over time, diversified geographically, diversified in property type, industrial, multifamily, retail, whatever, diversified with different syndicators, and diversified across time with that dollar cost averaging.
So how big is your club? How many members do you have today? And how long have you guys been, together?
Yeah, so in the club, we have 230 members. Now, these
Nice.
are, paying members who, are actually going in on these deals together. Our email list is bigger. Our email list is, I think, around 17,000 real estate investors. Those are not paying club members who are actively going in on deals together every month. But yeah, so 230 members in our club at this time.
And what do you guys like to invest in? What are you looking at today?
Well, so there's two answers to that question. One is, in large part the answer that we were just discussing about diversification. We're agnostic as far as, if there's not like a particular city or state that we love, or a particular sponsor we love, or a particular property type that we love. We want to spread money across a lot of different markets, a lot of different deals, a lot of different sponsors. That being said, that isn't really answering your question. So I do want to actually answer your question. We want to find those symmetrical returns, right? So those relatively low risk but high return investments. So that's what we look for, even as we're looking at deals, multifamily, retail, storage, industrial, whatever it might be. We want to find those deals that have something in place that keeps the risk relatively low, but the returns, moderate to high. So, for example, we don't want to rely on short-term debt, right? A lot of syndicators got in a lot of trouble over the last few years with short-term debt,
Right.
because that's where a lot of these deals can get into trouble, right? Like if you run out of time or if you run out of money, your deal implodes. So we want to see longer-term debt that has just a longer runway for an attractive exit to come along, right? So that's one area of risk that we look at. We want to see very low construction risk. We want to see if it's a value add deal. We want to see that the sponsor has a very deep history with the team who's actually going to be doing the work, whether that's in-house or whether it's outsourced. There's a big difference between a sponsor who's doing their first construction project with a team versus their 20th, right? In that market. We want to see low property management risk, for example. We want to, same concept. We want to see that this sponsor has worked with the same property management team. Again, whether it's in-house or whether it's outsourced, we want to see that they've worked with this same team a whole bunch of times on a whole bunch of different properties in this market, rather than, we've got this, we're going to hire this property management company and it's probably going to be fine. I don't like that. I mean, because property management risk is where a lot of the risk in these deals comes into play. If there is a reliance on rents going up more than just 2 or 3% a year, like regular appreciation of rents, we want to see something. We want to see a reason beyond just, we're going to improve the units and implement like a RUBS system or something. I'll give you one example. We invested a few months ago in a deal. It's a portfolio of a couple multifamily properties, which were they were in a tax savings. It was a low income housing tax credit properties, and those cap the amount of rent that tenants can come out of their pocket to pay. So the rents that the currents were currently paying was artificially held low. This sponsor uses a loophole in those rules. They go in and they, over the course of a couple of years, they turn over all of the units and put Section 8 tenants in place, because LIHTC only governs how much the tenant can come out of pocket to pay. So if the government is paying 2/3 of the rent, then you can charge market rents for those units because the tenant portion is still under the LIHTC limit, right? So they're able to raise these rents by 40, 50%. Just by raising them to market rents. And Section 8, they'll tell you how much they're willing to pay for these units. I mean, that's just stated every year. They come out with a new figure for that market, that city. So they knew exactly what they could charge for rents for these units. They just had to put in Section 8 tenants to get there. So it was a very clear business model, and one that they have done many times before. So this wasn't theoretical, right? I mean, this is a model that they've used, property in, property out. So we felt confident this was a pretty low risk deal where they're basically just bumping the rents up to market level rents, which they couldn't do before. So they're buying the properties at LIHTC pricing, artificially held low because of the rents, and they get to bump them up to market rent. So those are the sort of asymmetrical kind of deals that we look for. Again, long answer to a short question, but
yeah, no, that's good. How about market? Are you guys market specific at all, or what do you look for in a market to go into a project in?
Are you ready to skyrocket your investment portfolio and leave a legacy? Are you tired of inconsistent returns received in the stock market? Do you think it may be time to take a look at alternative investment options for your portfolio? Passive investing in multifamily real estate could be that option. With no tenants, trash, or toilets, providing a solid return on an annual basis that outperforms traditional investing, also receiving a monthly or quarterly return along the way. These lower risk and secure assets are a great hedge against inflation. If you want to learn more about these types of opportunities, you can email me directly to schedule a 15-minute consultation to see if you qualify. Just email me at mike@mikemorawski.com.
A couple things. One is we look for investor-friendly regulations for one thing, at least for residential properties. Those don't impact other types of properties. So we like to avoid super tenant-friendly markets, at least for multifamily properties, because that adds risk and it adds cost to those properties. I mean, I did most of my direct real estate investing in Baltimore, for example, super tenant friendly, and I ran into all kinds of problems because of it. And that doesn't mean that we don't invest in properties at all in these tenant friendly markets, but we try to avoid multifamily properties in those markets. So we might invest in industrial properties there, right, where the landlord tenant laws aren't relevant. Or, I'll give you a concrete example. We invested in a deal in Southern California a couple months ago, and it was a portfolio of 11 vacation cabins, basically up in this mountain town, an unincorporated mountain town that relies entirely on tourism for its industry. So there was zero risk of the town outlawing short-term rentals, right? Because it's just this unincorporated mountain town that relies on tourism, and there was no risk of long-term tenancy or having to evict tenants because they only do week-long stays in these cabins. So we didn't have to worry about the tenant-friendly regulations in Southern California for this deal because it wasn't a residential property investment. So that's one thing that we look for. We also we want to avoid like the hot and cold markets, those markets that shoot up in value by 40% in 2 years, and then they crash down by 30% in value in the next year. We prefer more stable cash flowing markets in general. So yeah, those are a couple of points, a couple of things we look for as we're looking at the market. But again, we're market agnostic. Our main goal is just diversification and being in as many different markets as we can.
Interesting. So if I have, and we currently are actively raising capital on a deal that we're doing. It's a 5-property portfolio in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay. Tulsa is an extremely robust market emerging right now. We're buying 277 units. As I said, it's 5 properties, and we're assuming 5 Freddie small balance loans at a blended rate of 3.6%.
Oh, that's great.
Fixed rate
that's music to investors' ears.
Fixed rate debt for 8 years left on them.
8 years, yeah. See, that's beautiful.
Totally distressed assets, operationally as well as physically. And we've actually closed on 3 of the properties, have 2 more that we're closing on. And we're actually, making some serious strides and progress on the deals. So is that something that you guys would look at?
It is. The first question that I would ask you, and that we ask any sponsor that we meet with, is do you allow non-accredited investors? Because that's one of our core values is inclusivity and being able to service all of our members, not just our accredited investor members. So we only look at deals that allow non-accredited investors because that's part of our mission, is serving, for lack of a better term, normal people, everyday people, right? Not just the wealthy who have traditionally been the mainstays of syndication investing. So yeah, that would be my first question to you, is do you allow non-accredited investors?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We actually opened that deal up for about a 40-day period to non-accrediteds. We had a 506B, and then we closed it down and reopened as a 506C. So because we had a whole bunch of investors that were non-accredited that we wanted to give that opportunity to as well. And then we wanted to be able to publicly market it. So we rolled it out. Yeah.
It's a model we've seen more of, more sponsors doing that too. Right. It adds a little bit of costs to them, but it also creates that flexibility. And in some cases, if they can raise enough money in the initial raise among their existing investor base, then they never have to switch it over to 506c. So, but yeah, it's a great model for opening up to everybody, and then leaving the door open for you to advertise to accredited investors later on as needed.
So that's interesting because I do have another deal that's a 506b that is a very similar product in what I just described. But so of course, if there was an interest, we could talk about that offline because we don't want to publicly talk about that. So, but there is a non-accredited opportunity out there that's similar. It's a 3.9% interest rate, fixed rate for 8 years. So
Awesome.
we still have some room in there. So I'll share that with you offline. But
please do. Looking forward to checking it out.
So how often do you look for opportunities to deploy money into?
So our club aims to meet twice a month, once to vet a deal, and so for deal flow, and then the other time for purely educational presentations. We'll bring in guest experts in whatever their field is to present to our club. So, for example, we brought in a couple CPAs a month or two back to talk about tax strategies for passive real estate investments, and really dig into some of the details that can trip up passive investors, like depreciation recapture and how that works. So yeah, we bring in guest experts every month to present to the club, and then we also get together every month to vet a deal. So we're constantly on the lookout for new deals, something that might be a good fit for our club members.
So do you have one partner that you and him started the club, or?
Yeah, I have a co-founder, a woman named Denny Sipley is my co-founder, and we've known each other for about almost 20 years now.
Okay, and do you guys participate in the deal, or do you get paid for being part of the deal? So
I have participated in every single deal that we have done. I mean, that's when we're looking at deals and trying to decide if they're a good fit for the club. I mean, my first question is, am I excited about investing my own money in this? Because I'm going to be doing so. So I only want to present deals to the club that I myself am very pumped about putting money into myself. My partner has not, sometimes she puts money in these deals. Sometimes she doesn't have the capital to invest in the deals. And, I have to disclose, the time may come when I may not have the money that month to invest in a deal, and that just is what it is. We can't promise that we're putting our personal money in every deal, but that is my goal, is to invest personal money in every single deal.
Nice. And what's the avatar? That's that big buzzword these days. What's the avatar of your club member?
I would say our avatar is working professionals who earn a solid income. They're not super rich, right? We're not targeting people who are making millions of dollars a year and who can afford to put 50 grand in a new deal every month potentially, right? So we're servicing professionals who earn a solid income. They have some discretionary income to invest every month, every other month, whatever it is, but they want to spread their money across a lot of different deals. They want to invest passively rather than becoming a landlord. Or at least only becoming a landlord. Some of our members are landlords, but they love the diversification of being able to invest smaller amounts with us than they would have to put into a property they buy by themselves with down payment, closing costs, cash reserves, repair costs, etc. So yeah, our avatar, people who work full time, they're busy, maybe they have families and kids, they don't want to spend their nights and weekends putzing around with rental properties, right? But they want to diversify their portfolio to include real estate. They want the cash flow. They want the appreciation. They want all the tax benefits without becoming a landlord.
Yeah, I love that. I love that opportunity for the average investor who wants to be in real estate, doesn't have $25,000 or $50,000 to invest, but would like to dribble some money into something over time and build up. You have any success stories you can share?
You mean about specific deals or
or
about?
more so about a specific investor who wanted to get involved in real estate and just didn't have the wherewithal or the knowledge on their own or the big capital infusion, but has done well over a period of time here and been growing his portfolio or her portfolio.
Yeah, there's a guy who he's an ex-tennis pro who now is building a business around coaching tennis and teaching tennis. And his I think his wife is also an entrepreneur, if I remember correctly. And they're super busy, right? Like I mean, they run. They're trying to get these businesses off the ground. They do not have
Sure.
time to be landlords, but they want to diversify to include real estate, and they want some extra income sources on the side of their business income, which you and I both know as entrepreneurs, small business income is it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, there are months when I don't earn a cent from Spark Rental, right? And there are months when we do great, but that's having a small business. So it's so inconsistent, or not. Yeah, I mean your expenses, your income, can be a roller coaster as a small business owner. So being able to buttress that business income with steady cash flow, with appreciation, and you start stacking up all of these different streams of income and investments, then suddenly you're in a more stable place, and that frees you up to focus your time on growing your business. In this case, a tennis athletic business. So yeah, his name is Wojtek, and he's been a very vocal participant in our club, and it's been great to have him.
Nice. Hey, so I think that you've been in different parts of the world. You were in Abu Dhabi. I think when we originally met, you were in Brazil.
I was, yeah.
And now you're in Peru. What, these places that you've been and get to work from, is there any one place that you really enjoyed the most and would say, hey, I'd like to be here or stay here, or any type of comments around that, or maybe even a great tourist attraction and say, hey, you should go here because of this?
Well, I mean, yes. So Abu Dhabi is great for travel. The Abu Dhabi and Dubai airports are connector hubs they connect Europe, Africa, and Asia. So a lot of the the transcontinental flights, they all go through Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So it's great, cheap travel from Abu Dhabi to anywhere in those three continents, which is awesome. I mean, cheaper and longer direct flights, more direct flights from there. Abu Dhabi is also a really easy place to live as an expat because almost everyone who lives there is an expat. So when we were there, and I can't imagine this has changed much. When we were there, 86% of the population was foreigners. Only 14% of the population were actual Emirati citizens, native people. So, it's to the point where there was a lot of concern about their culture being annihilated and overwhelmed by foreigners, right? Which is, I understand that concern. I mean, everything's bilingual, English and Arabic, in the UAE, or at least in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So it's obviously a super modern city. It's a very easy city to live in. Brasilia is not a tourist city. But it was a very easy city, and it was a great place for us to have our daughter. Very walkable, very green. We, for the first time in our lives, we lived without a car there, which was awesome. And it was a great place to be in the pandemic because it's warm all year round. So all the restaurants and bars and cafes and they all had outdoor seating. So, I mean, the pandemic was in some ways a non-event for us outside of the first couple months of lockdowns. But Brasilia, it's not a place for tourists to really visit, but it was a very easy place to live. Lima is an underrated city among Americans, I would say. And most Americans don't appreciate how big of a city Lima is. I mean, it's comparable in size to LA or New York.
Wow.
Depending on where you draw the boundary, what's included in the city or the metro area, it's like 13 million people. So it's a huge city, great food scene. I mean, if you look at the top 50 restaurants in the world, a shocking number of them are in Lima. I mean, it's like 6 or 7 of them are in Lima, like out of the top 50. So amazing food scene here, and very low cost of living for a city of this size and for a city this international. Our apartment, we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment on the ocean with a balcony with a 360-degree view of the Pacific Ocean. And if we were paying for it, which we're not, but if we were paying for it, it's $1,300 a month in rent. I guarantee you, I will never have a view like this or a location like this for an apartment for anywhere near that amount of money again.
Wow, that's amazing. And it makes me wonder why we can't just do that here. Why does it have to be $7,000 a month for that type of an apartment with an ocean view?
Well, it's funny you asked that. I do some freelance writing, even to this day. It was something I started just to help extend the runway for getting Spark Rental off the ground. I still do a little bit to this day because I enjoy it. And I was writing an article last week for Go Banking Rates about how it is conceivable that it's cheaper for you to live in an all-inclusive resort than it would be to live in the US and pay the attendant costs that you wouldn't have to pay if you lived in an all-inclusive resort. So this there was a TikToker who broke down the cost, and he basically added up his rent, utilities, the cost of his car and insurance and groceries and entertainment, stuff that he wouldn't have to pay if he were living on an all-inclusive resort. It came out to about $4,000 a month, which, maybe for you as a listener, you might spend a little more or a little less than that, but not outrageous numbers, right? I mean, the average rent in the US, according to Zillow right now, is $2,100. So, you add in, car and you add up all those other things, $4,000 a month for everything within the realm of normality for the average person. And there are all-inclusive resorts that can cost you less than $4,000 a month, or are in that ballpark, $4,200 a month, $3,800 a month, within that ballpark. So these are the kinds of fun what if questions to ask. Like, you actually could live at an all-inclusive resort or on a cruise, like an all-inclusive cruise, and potentially pay less than your current cost of living. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent there, but
yeah, that's okay though. I think it's interesting, and I'm sure that a number of my listeners this morning will think it's interesting as well. So, any comments, throw those in the chat if you want. So, hey, Brian, it's been great having you on this morning. Appreciate it. Tell me this: do you guys have a car in Lima now?
No, we do not have a car.
Still no car. Okay.
Still no car. So, we live in an urban, part of the city. I mean, I can walk everywhere. I walk to my co-working space office where I work from. My wife's school is further away, so we pay a private driver to drive her to and from school every day, and she goes in on it with this other teaching couple who live in our neighborhood, and that's still way cheaper than buying a car.
Wow.
So, and the traffic in Lima is just atrocious, by the way. It's the worst thing about Lima by far. So you really wouldn't want to drive here anyway.
Any thoughts of moving back to the U.S. or?
We are thinking about moving back to the U.S. after her current contract ends. We've got another year on her contract here at the school in Lima where she works. We're thinking about moving back to the U.S. for a couple of years just to reconnect with family and spend a little more time. Our parents are getting older, and we just want to be there. And be close to family for a couple of years. We do want to move abroad again. We love expat life. We don't have to pay for rent. We haven't paid a cent in rent since moving abroad in 2015.
Wow.
Katie's employer covers our housing, covers our flights home every year, covers full health insurance, premium health insurance for the entire family, stuff that we just wouldn't get in the US. It's a great life. And like I said, lower cost of living across the board. So yeah, we can take advantage of arbitrage.
Which gives you plenty of money to invest in real estate deals. So,
well, that's right. So yeah, the way we do it in our family, we try to live entirely on my wife's income and benefits, and save and invest all of my income. So which, to your point, we get to plow a bunch of money into investments every month and rapidly grow our net worth and our passive income.
What a great wealth building strategy. That's awesome. Hey, I
And a fun one.
appreciate, yeah, right, exactly. Hey, I appreciate you being here and loved hearing about your club. And how do people get in touch with you if they want more information or find out a little bit more how they get involved with you?
Yeah, so come to our website first and foremost, sparkrental.com. You can also email me directly at brian@sparkrental.com. We're on all the major social media platforms. We've got several Facebook groups for real estate investors. I think we've got one for active investors with like 48,000 members and another for passive investors with like 8,000 members. So yeah, reach out any way that is best for you, and hope to chat with you and connect with you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And to my listeners, thank you for being here again this morning. We're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. Tell somebody about the show and come and get some information, some knowledge that might help you move your investing career to the next level. Whether you're an active investor or whether you're a passive investor, we try to bring enough information for you to make good decisions, good choices with on your investment journey.